welcome to the Heartbeat podcast version. This is the podcast version. The last time you were with me, we were on the radio live, and we are not live today. So this is going to be so fun. So basically what this show is about is creating a space that we can share conversation, awesome conversation, and just be ourselves, be authentic, be, whatever comes up is going to come up. I know you and I kind of talked a little bit beforehand. If those things come up, great. If they don't come up, fine too. So whatever's in the moment, that's what this show is about. And it's been actually really cool. So we can catch up a little bit. So Mark, I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute. But Mark and I have known each other for probably a year now. Has it been a year?
Year and change. I think time's moving so fast, but
I know. It's crazy.
The years are short, but the days are long. Put it that way.
There you go. Sometimes the days are really long.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Mark came on the Heartbeat on the international radio with me a few months back, and I'm so excited to have you back with me. We have amazing conversations. We haven't had one in a really long time. I mean, we started yesterday just kind of touching base on how this is going to go, and you were like, "Oh wait, we gotta wait." And I was like, "Yeah, like don't talk anymore. Stop talking."
I genuinely love talking about this stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
So it was hard for me. I actually started to go like we were on a show, and I'm like, I'll save it. So.
Yeah, and I think what's really awesome is sometimes in those conversations where you're just having a catch up or something like that, you really do get some really awesome content. And so I'm seeing this exactly the same as our conversation yesterday, which was so short. So we have like about an hour-ish, little less than an hour to hang together. And I'm sure that we will talk about everything under the sun, and we'll just have an organic conversation. And I'm really excited to catch up with you and see how things are going. And
me too.
So first, would you introduce yourself for everyone who's listening, and tell a little bit about what's going on with you?
It's gonna be a lot to tell. My name is Mark Washco. I work. This is the funny part. It's like a joke. I work as a personal trainer. I work as a business coach. I work as I work in marketing. I do everything from ad copy writing for clients, as well as I'm an inspirational speaker. I give talks at high schools and colleges, and lead retreats for people looking to. I mean, it's been a crazy ride. If I guess they could listen to the last interview that we did together.
Yeah.
But deathbed survivor, working with patients with autoimmune pathologies, pioneering research, and I mean, part of what I'd like to get into today, if we end up getting there, is just that. To hear somebody say something like that, it almost sounds comical. Like we joke, like astronaut, cowboy. How many titles are you going to take on? But I think under the right mindset, I'm just getting started. Really am. And I think that you can be highly successful in 6 industries, and I think you can be highly successful in 60. It depends on what you want to learn, what you're willing to learn, and what pain you're willing to take to be a newcomer and to learn things that you want to do. And I think the human potential is vastly underrated by the common majority, the stuff that you can do. And I don't mean just writing a book that sells 5 copies and calling yourself an author.
Right.
Author too. I mean, you can write books that hit hundreds of thousands of people and give talks to people all over the world and revolutionize treatments in medicine when you don't even, I'm not a doctor.
Right.
And I don't say this to brag. I say this for anyone listening to get curious and listen to the rest of this. And and that could be emotional success. Right. That's so important, emotional maturity. And so I'm venturing out and do a lot of different things. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up next year, including podcasts of my own and all kind of, which I'd love to have you on. But basically I started out as a personal trainer, went to become a successful serial entrepreneur, and then went into, how do I, instead of reaching 50 people a month, how do I reach 50,000? How do I reach 500,000? And that turned into books and retreats and seminars, and anything that I can do that changes people's life for the better is what I want to do. That's why a business coach. Money causes a lot of problems for a lot of people. The reason I life coach is mental health causes a lot of problems for people. The reason I work as a personal trainer is because literally nothing kills more people and makes them miserable than having no control of their health.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Hope that was
this
an
is
okay
gonna,
intro.
oh my
I'm
gosh.
wandering already. It's a
No, it's
hard
great.
question to answer because, there's 8 titles and they're climbing.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think that's really interesting is, people, like you said, they can go back and listen to the old conversation that you and I had a while back. And I think what's really interesting is that conversation was circled a lot around you and your own health and how you
yeah.
overcame a lot of things. And so I don't necessarily think that we need to get into that a whole lot. I just think sharing a little tiny
I
piece
can
of
touch.
it
Yeah.
might be helpful for people
Sure.
to sort of understand that about where you're coming
Yeah,
from.
sure. And I'm no closed book about it. I think it adds context to some of the stuff I hope we get to talk about too. So,
Yeah.
I, in my teenage years, fell violently ill in the snap of a finger. I mean, I turned to a friend and said, "Hey, I don't feel good," and I felt this overwhelming sensation that I couldn't see. I was having a seizure, but I was conscious. I went to the emergency room. And they asked me what drugs I was on because I was shaking violently in a teenager in a college town, and um, that started the journey to find out that I had a vector-borne parasite that had crossed my blood-brain barrier and was ravaging my central nervous system. And the likelihood of me surviving wasn't all that great. And the likelihood, if I did survive, of me walking was impossible. And I just got done deadlifting 500 pounds in the gym. And I'm not going to say life's not hard. I have palpitations all the time. I'm getting them right now. My vision's weird. My life is difficult in many, 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 many ways. Getting the flu is 100 times easier than what I deal with on the daily. But as your body can be damaged and destroyed and you can be beaten and abused and people can do bad things to you, you can become strong and powerful and confident and resilient and put in place countermeasures to make it so that you can live the life that you want to live or as close to it instead of saying, "Hey, this is unfair," because you're damn right it was unfair. I mean, there's nothing, well, no, if we want to measure it, there's probably more unfair things than having a chronic illness for the rest of your life in your teenage years without you doing anything wrong to deserve it. But that to me was actually the start of this. First it went down. It was, I can't do this. I'm in a bed. I'm in a hospital forever asking doctors where I live. And they say, "Let's talk tomorrow," meaning they don't know how to say it, but they don't think so. And it was down, down, down. I don't want to live. I can't do this. It's miserable. And then there was just a real turning point for me where I said, doctors aren't going to save you. Medicine's not going to save you. Although medicine's helped, this is going to come down to you figuring out yourself on a physiological level. And that's what, put me into big, real huge interest in psychopharmacology, pharmacology, biology, kinesiology, personal training, dietetics. I mean, I had to learn all this stuff in order to live.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a crazy story, but it's sometimes when I say things I have to put disclaimers, but it's all there in medical literature. And it's, I did some I was the first guy in the United States to have umbilical stem cells injected across the blood-brain barrier. And we didn't know what the risk of that was, but I'm much more scared of not living than I am dying.
Right.
And so
I
I would
love
take,
when you say that.
Oh, it's one I hold it to my heart.
Yep.
It's not living is a scary thing, and so many people live on autopilot their whole life. So that was the start for me. Was realizing that I was going to die, which I didn't. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, my truth then was I'm going to die. Everyone, my family, we had stuff ready for the funeral. How did you want to be burned? Do you want to be buried? I mean, I get really emotional as a young kid. I consider 17 very young. I consider that a baby pretty much in the hierarchy of life. And to have to deal with these consequences and an unreal amount of unrelenting day in, day out pain with zero relief for not even a second, I had to turn into something else. And I'm not happy it happened, but I can't say that I'm upset about this absolute explosion of a life that has taken off afterwards when you don't take a second for granted and you go after everything you want every day and you stop worrying what the common majority thinks about you.
Right. Right. I think that's brilliant. I think that's an absolute brilliant statement. And I want to go back to, before we go on any further,
wherever you want to go, let's go.
Yeah. I was like, I made some notes just as you were talking here, but like you were talking about pain and just being in this pain. And this was, before you shared all of this stuff, but it reminds me of this. I don't remember if it was a talk or something I heard, but it was like, use pain as a guide. Use pain as a motivator, use pain as a counselor. And do you feel like you ever did that? Or did you see pain as something different and you just morphed? Like, how does pain fit into your world? Because you live with it every day.
Yeah, so I think it actually happened accidentally. I think I had to get really strong and I had to learn to smile through pain
Hmm.
because, I had to learn how to fake it. I'm not a big fan of closing up your emotions and not. But when you're at a job or something and you're looking like you're about to fall over and you're feeble and you're 9 out of 10 pain, you let that be seen and you're probably not going to work there very much. I mean, it's off-putting, right? Someone comes in,
Hmm.
I mean, it's not your fault that that's happening, but I had to get real strong with pain. And then after I got strong with pain, I came to realize that pain was the barrier of access to everything beautiful in this life. That's the way that I look at it.
Okay.
And I feel that you can't stop pain in your life. If you want to be really successful, get really good at pain. Because everyone runs away from it. So if everyone
Hmm.
runs away from pain and you run right into it, you have an open market. There's no
Hmm.
competition in pain. There's no market competition. People live their whole lives and buy products and do things and to simply human beings head towards head towards pleasure and avoid pain. Any psychologist would agree with
Right.
this. And
Right.
and and usually they avoid pain before they seek pleasure. Case in point, here's $100, come take it. That's pleasureful to get
Hmm.
things. But if I say I might punch you, which I never would, Chris, of course, I might knock you out if you come and
Right.
grab this money, you won't do it because the fear of pain overrides your desire to. And this is really the hierarchy of human existence for the most part. Now, I came to find that when I got really good at pain, working out, when I talk pain, I don't mean the pinching. I mean discomfort, sadness, frustration. These are all levels of pain. Let's think negative and positive.
Yes.
So pain is
Yeah.
negative, pleasure is positive. And I'll wrap this up. Working out is painful. Being obese is painful. Working really hard is painful. Being miserably broke is painful.
Hmm.
Working on your mental health is painful. Being terribly mentally ill is painful. Pick your pain.
Yeah.
You have to pick pain. And I don't mean to sound elitist in any way, shape, or form, but the passion is starting to come out. I mean, people who avoid pain are going to have a difficult life because
Hmm.
life is, you lose people you love, people break your heart. There's actual pain. You fall down and scrape your knee. To start a new business venture, it's painful to work 4 hours on top of your 9 to 5 in an unknown venture that you don't know if it will ever pay off. But if
Hmm.
you learn to take those 4 hours and make it exciting or even love it, I think the more pain you can willingly put upon yourself. I want to put a big disclaimer. I'm not talking about cutting yourself. I'm not talking about, actual self-abuse. I'm not at all a fan of that. But the more that you can learn to exist in pain like nothing's going on and nothing's wrong, the more successful that you'll be because life
Hmm.
will challenge the hell out of you.
Yeah. Are you saying like maybe like lean into being uncomfortable, lean into that unknown, lean into that and sit with it for a while, right? Like
Well,
sometimes
measure
you
it
have to
out.
sit with it for a little bit.
I've heard people say, hey, I don't want to go to the gym because I have to sweat and I'm out of breath. And I say, you ever laid in a bed gasping for air? And they say, no. And I say, do you think that'd be more painful than having to spend half an hour, 3 times a week? And they say, yeah. And I say, you're either short-sighted, you've got no ability to use deductive reasoning or logic, or you're simply just hoping that you're going to be this statistical anomaly that isn't 80% of people that die because they
Hmm.
eat wrong and don't work out right. And that's, by the way, if I could wave a wand, so everybody had a perfect body and could eat chocolate cake, oh my God, let's do it, But it's just not, you have to exist within a rule set. And
Hmm.
the rule set's made physiologically. I mean, we may evolve at some point down the line. I actually think a cataclysmic thing would happen to the human species before we made that next jump of evolution that allowed us to thrive off Arby's. But the pain.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm being realistic.
I know. I
The
know.
pain of having to do these things is. I've been homeless, right? People are like, I don't get how you do 16-hour days. Well, I did 16-hour days for 3 years, and now I'm not the kind of guy who's going to list my income, but I have everything I want. And I said this Christmas, I don't. There's nothing I want to buy that I don't have.
Right.
And it went from homelessness to that very far end of the spectrum. And what it was I learned to take a crap load of pain, measuring sleep, working every hour of the day, approaching people in sales, believe it or not, was painful for me at first. Rejection was painful.
Hmm.
I mean, these things, I'm not superhuman. And that's
Right.
something I really want to touch base on too, is I'm probably about as average as you could come. The story's been extraordinary, but I don't
Hmm.
really think there's special people and unspecial people. I think that's a very narcissistic way to look at, humanity. And I try to look at
Hmm.
everyone as much like me as I can. I see myself in them.
Hmm.
I see an addict as myself who didn't get love and care, or didn't have the strength, or, I see somebody who's doing something really bad to themselves as me, who just went down a different path. And I say that to make it easier for me to make them a human, you know? But where I was going with that is I think that actions can be special. And I think routines and mindset can be special. But I think almost every person is a pretty blank slate. And obviously there's exceptions, you know, rampant, very bad mental illness, being born without legs. And I work with a lot of these people, as you know, people with very terrible conditions. But even them, like, you know, Dubes, when I see a guy with cerebral palsy, I'm bringing him up again. When I see a guy with cerebral palsy win a bodybuilding competition against able-bodied people because I tweaked his mindset so hard and now he's out there with a business and speaking and stuff, I don't want to hear your excuses to why you can't do it. And I don't mean that to shut you down. I mean that to say, let's do this together. Yeah. Let's grow. Let's make you happier so then you can pass that gift to somebody else.
Yeah. So let's talk about mindset, because we hear that word a lot. I'm a coach.
Overused.
You're a coach. You hear it. I hear it. I teach it. I preach it.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I'm talking to people, they kind of look at me like, huh? So what is mindset? In your opinion, Mark Washco, what is mindset?
I don't mean to be difficult, but I think that's kind of like saying, what is humanity? You know, it's like, it's you know, it's so, no, it's got me on there's some things that make me go, whoa, you know, and that's one of them. And I'm ad hocing this answer and coming up with it on the spot. But I think mindset is going to be a conglomeration of all the, you know, dichotomies and all the ways that you feel and the ways that you react. And I think one thing, if I can say about mindset, is it is, as an entity, totally plastic. You know, like, it's not something I've heard people say all the time. I wish I was as happy as you. You're dancing in a car and you don't care what people think. You know, spare causing harm to people. Like, I won't throw something at someone's face because I feel like it. But anything else, if I'm not causing you harm, I'm going to dance to the Spice Girls in Walmart because that song came on. And people say, I wish I was as happy as you. And I say, no, you don't, because you would be. It's practice. Happiness is one of the hardest things I've ever had to work on, and I have to work on it every hour of every day. And I think mindset is very ambiguous in the way that it's completely malleable. I woke up this morning with my condition kind of flaring up, blurry vision, felt sick to my stomach, you know, thought I was going to, you know, I have problems every day. But I also woke up with a roof above my head, in a warm bed. I've got the car that I love. I have dreams. There's people that support me. I love other people. I was excited to do this with you. I mean, what do you want to choose again? And so I think mindset is this very broad, ambiguous, but the most powerful thing I truly believe that a human being can ever tap into. And this is coming from somebody who used to make fun of mindset. I used to be like, oh, go tell a starving kid in Mogadishu that he should just mindset his way to having food, when there's, you know, and what I realized was mindset with utilities or options is what produces beautiful things. And you want to try to rack up both of them as much as you can, because kid in Mogadishu, you know, he can't mindset his way into having bread in his mouth, you know, or clean water. But we shouldn't take for granted that where we live, that most people have access to take mindset and combine it with resources, people resource, internet resource, social media resource, technological resource. I mean, we're using all these right now for free to do something that, you know, you want to call it amazing, you want to call it stupid. That's up to the person watching's perception. But I'm getting some happiness out of this. And so that's my broad, on the spot, totally impromptu answer to what mindset is it can be anything. Yeah. It can be anything.
Yep. I appreciate your answer. And so let me ask you this question. So if we all have rules that we, in our lives, that we have because of the experiences we've gone through, right?
Oh yeah.
We have, so this might get a little bit, you know, we haven't talked about this either. So another, you know, ad hoc question. So how do rules and values play into mindset? Our own personal rules and values, not society's, but our own.
I think they're bound to dictate your kind of borders, you know, for where you're willing to go and what you're willing to do. If I'm understanding the question correctly, you're asking like what our own internal values will do in response to the idea of changing mindset, right? I think that's almost a mindset in itself. You know, do I go by what you know me, I'm not out here committing crimes and stuff, but I'm more about morality than legality. There's rules set up by society that I don't always agree with, and I'm not out here stealing and robbing or being a junkie or something. But I mean, to be honest with you, I'll bend every law that I'm more concerned about taking care of people and nurturing people and doing what's right for them. The same way I destroyed every rule in personal training. It's one of the ways I rose at the speed I did was I taught people how to eat chocolate cake and eat bacon cheeseburgers and get a six pack. And that breaking of the rules or bending the rules, I think is very important to mindset because your rules are going to change based on your mindset. So I think that they kind of act as like a fence in which you can put different blocks and pathways of communication with. We think about communication as outward. Communication with oneself is just as important as communication with other people, right?
Absolutely.
Or at least I think so. I'm not trying to write the book here. But, that's going to determine our communication standards with ourself. And I think many people's rules are simply rules because they grew up in a system or a society or a environment or a climate that said this is status quo. And I was raised Roman Catholic, and I'm not anti-religion, but I'm not Roman Catholic anymore. I'm much more, I guess, spiritual and just human. Human's my race, and love is my religion. And but I'd say underall, I'm kind of still Catholic. I don't want to get into it too much, but these rules for me had to be pushed, broken, mended, just like business or any entity where you go to try to achieve a goal. Oftentimes the market changes. Right. And sometimes the market of your life or even the currency of your life changes. I didn't care about money until I realized that was a rule that broke for me. Everything was above money. Material didn't matter until I realized that I could go in a soup kitchen for 12 hours a day, or I could spend $500,000 hiring 1,000 people to go work in a soup kitchen. And to me, I think money, if you want to change the world, money is your best bet. And it was a total flip for me, right? Because I had this rule that money wasn't important and only emotion and only human. And only when I had it and could build wells for people who had no clean water in terrible areas of the world, I said, holy shit. If you want to, this whole I don't care about money, I just want to do good, you better reevaluate at least to me, what your definition of doing good is. And by the way, let me say very clearly, that doesn't mean there's not value in being kind to your neighbor or holding the door. That is the start. Because not everybody has 100,000 and it, you don't need to either. Imagine the world if everybody, just a weird tangent. I had a kind of a crazy moment with my buddy the other night. We were like, imagine if everyone acted the way we do to each other, right? Like you never had to worry about getting robbed or mugged or anyone taking advantage of you. Every time someone said this is going to happen, it actually happened. Nobody lied to you. Nobody bullied. Like just imagine the possible. I can't even imagine. It gives me chills. Like I'm that much of an emotional guy that I'm getting chills. Imagine if you need a ride home and someone pulls over, hey, hop in the car, I'll give you a ride home. And great, hop in, because you don't do that. That's a dice roll for sure. But just imagine the power of that. And I want to say that to remind people that don't go, oh, I guess I won't go volunteer at the animal shelter. No, do go volunteer at the animal shelter.
Yeah.
If your neighbor's old, just go knock on the door, and they love hanging out with people. Do things every day that give kindness to other people. But in truth, my value and rule set changed a lot right there. And I know I'm going all over the place, but that's just an example for you. Because money was a big rule that changed for me. I thought it was evil, and now I think it's one of the most beautiful things that you can have to help people.
Yeah, it's a different perspective, and it's a wise place, because I think that what I'm hearing you say is you have an emotion, a positive emotion attached to money, whereas sometimes when people have money, it's just the opposite. So there's an emotion and something that you get from that then you can contribute back into the world, where some people just get it and don't ever do the latter. And therefore, that's where that could get conceived as being evil, right?
I think it's a magnifier of who you are, right? Like if you're into drugs and you get $1 million, you're probably gonna do a lot of drugs, right? Like if you're into like saving puppies and you got $10 million, well, shit, a bunch of puppies are about to get saved. I would imagine, right? I mean, if you're and for some people, it doesn't change their life very much at all. They just donate, like Warren Buffett. Was like I don't even know, they're 18 billion or 80 billion or something like that, but. Dude lives in like a $180,000 house, which, to be honest, if you got 80 billion and you got your money's not your. I mean, wealth and these fancy things aren't the things for you. But I think we have weird, we were talking about society's like kind of perceptions of things, and that was
Yep.
something that we were talking about. I think people got money all screwed up, and I think it
Yep.
comes from a place of insecurity. But I hear people they say money doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter to your kid's got a birth defect. Money determines the health care you get. Money determines how many hours a day you have to work. You have a limited life, and if you have a lot, you don't need to. Meaning you get. I mean, that's of infinite rare. There's nothing to me that's more amazing than being able to. People are like, "Oh, I don't care about money. I just want to travel, be free." Well, how do you think you travel and be free? It's the.
Right.
And again, I'm not saying I had a happy life in homelessness. I mean, I didn't want to be homeless, but like, I had my guitar, and I would, skateboard, and I wasn't one of these like you picture, what is his name, Pigpen, all covered in dirt. I was just, I found out places to stay, but you were always up and moving, and sometimes you had to sleep in the park, and sometimes you were frightened, and sometimes you were cold, and I was ashamed personally. I didn't even people that opened their doors for me. I felt horrible about being there on their couch, and so. I believe personally that in my hierarchy, it goes your physical health, because when that was gone, it didn't matter my mindset or mindset did matter, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it's mental health, and actually third in line is money for me. Like that's be healthy, be good to you, be good to other people, and be healthy in your own mind, and take care of yourself, and understand a life of purpose to you that makes you happy. And then the third right after that, it's the third most important thing if we're talking about broad macro topics for me in this life.
Yeah. So, awesome.
Does that resonate with you, by the way? I'm just curious if you're in hearing that. Is that
with the money stuff or the
like would you say, I hate to flip the interview on you.
No,
would you say
this is what it's all about.
Okay. Would you say that you do you assign a good or an evil connection to money, or do you think it's just like a tool? And beyond that, do you believe that it is important or unimportant to somebody's life and happiness?
I like this. So I don't assign it either way. I don't have that. I think, I've always been that person that says money's not my deal. It's not my jam. Like we've talked about this before. After you and I talked just yesterday, like I've been thinking about that, like, because you can do a lot with money. If you want to change the world or you want to do good for the world, it does take some money sometimes and resources. But I don't have a good or evil side or an opinion about that. It's never been the most important thing to me. If you were to say, hey, Saunders, I want to give you, $5,000, or I'll give you a day of my life that we can hang together, I would pick the day in your life to hang with you over the $5,000, because the value I would get from hanging with you would be way more than that $5,000, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, no, I agree 100%. I have to agree with all that. I think one more quick point is I think the way that you use it and the way that you act about it is very important, because I found out, as let's just break my companies down into fitness, and then there's the mental side of things like speaking and inspirational. Let's just call that mental, right? Inspirational speaking is more a cerebral kind of thing. Fitness, personal training is clearly body. I mean, straight up. And then I work in business coaching, and these guys have been incredibly successful, and they're so successful that sometimes people don't believe it, right? They say this can't be real. I refuse to believe he made $2,000 in one day. Not me. Some of the guys that I coach, and that's quite typical. And I've noticed, like, if you go out and say, hey, I talked about this the other day on my story. Yes. If I come home and say, hey, I scored 30 points in a basketball game, people and then, oh my gosh, hug, I'm so proud of you. If you come home and say I made $20,000 in a weekend, people will be like, oh, that's gross. Why would you? And to an entrepreneur, money is the same thing as a basketball player's score. Yeah. This is the game we play, and it's normal for us to be like, how much money did you make down to a penny when we meet? I mean, it's just, that's that's our game, and people get really nasty when you talk about it. And that's when people say, oh, scammer, bullshit. I'm like, dude, go ahead. I don't need to prove anything. And then one guy said, I don't believe it. And so I printed out my bank statement and took a picture, and he's like, oh, that's so cocky. And I said, dude, you literally asked me for proof, and there's no way I can win. And what I've realized is it feels so far away from them. And I empathize for this. They feel so burdened by their bills, and they feel so burdened that they can't catch up. They feel that they'll never get there. So it's easier to say, oh, I hate that. I don't want it. It's not even real, because that lets them go on to not want, and wanting and not having sucks. I mean, it's a bad, but to follow up on that, I think it's the way that you talk about it. Case in point, you, Chris, let's say you're, I don't know, you got some bad, actually, let's remove it from you. It's so personal. Let's say somebody's on the way home. They just found out that their significant other needs $200,000 in medical care money because our system can be cruel, or they die, right? And they're sobbing in tears, and somebody rides up in a limo and opens a big, nobody even does this, but like a briefcase full of money, and then squeals off. Oh my God, that would be so damaging to somebody. I mean, to mock them, to mock the fact that you have something that they don't have that will make a huge difference in their life and is hurting them emotionally down to their core, is a disgusting, filthy, evil thing to do. But if that person pulled up and opened it up and said, hey, do you need, like, I can show you how to do this, right? Like, I can show you how to get this, and we can get it pretty quickly. And you might cry in happiness if you believe them, right? Like if it was a legitimate offer.
Right.
So both people are rolling up with a box full of money, showing you what they got. It is the air about them and the way that they talk about it, which dictates whether or not people get mad. If you're saying, hey, look at what I have. I was able to pay off a whole home, you know, and blah, blah, blah. I want to teach you how to do this, show you how to do this, money back guarantee, whatever it's going to be. And you're legit. I think that's incredible. I think if you're online flashing Rolexes and just showing people that you have all this stuff, knowing that it's going out to people who don't have a lot, it's a pretty shitty thing to do. And so I think people are very uncomfortable about it. I don't know why they're so uncomfortable about it, because I think people getting mad at people who have wealth, would be the same as people who are overweight getting mad at people who are not overweight. By the way, my camera did I black out there?
No.
Okay. It gave me that low power. We still have 20% battery, but it kind of froze the screen, so I wasn't sure if it did with you.
No, I get it. So I just lost my train of thought, but what were you saying right before you said that? Something about
just that there's this weird, I'm big on studying social human behavior to like a weird level, to where I'll even make posts and write down data points and find out what makes people happy, angry, what makes people motivated, what makes people sad, what makes people yell at you and block you. And you'd be surprised because they don't align with, and you might say, Mark, that's kind of weird that you're running a giant. I'm a marketer. You know, I mean, it's to know what makes people, and when I coach people, I need to know what by majority makes people want to get up and change, and what makes people comfortable through that change, right? And to know how humans act in a society that is always changing. So you can read a book 20 years ago about psychology, but no offense, it's probably going to get some good nuggets of information. But I mean, you think a book 20 years ago could have turn on culture and always on culture and social media culture and, you know, the instant culture that, I mean, you have to hands-on get into the field to learn how battle feels.
Right. So here's my question. So when you were talking about how you and your buddy were talking about, wouldn't it be awesome if everyone treated everyone, you know, with respect and was kind, all that stuff. So then we get to the point where, you know, you have these two people, one's got a briefcase of money, one's got that's going to give it to you and offer you or even offer you services or whatever. One's just going to show it off to you. And so that's where it comes to me. Like, okay, so you've got people in the world who aren't kind, who are scammers, who do take advantage of people. And then you have these people who may have been burned by somebody, may have had money taken from them out of being in a vulnerable moment. So then they see someone who's offering, like, here's what I can do for you. I can prove to you. Yes, it may cost you a little bit of money to get my advice, because I too have to live.
It costs money. To build someone a six-figure business costs them.
So they have, but they're like, well, I already lost maybe, you know, 20 grand in a scam. I don't have money to give to you to give my advice. If you really do care about people, why aren't you just giving it for free? So those are just things that like come to mind. And I'm not saying that about you. I'm just saying that about society in general. And it's like, we have these, and I think we can sort of segue into some of the stuff we were talking about yesterday. It's like,
No, this
We
is good.
kind
I
of touched
didn't
on
mean
it.
that like this isn't good. I'm excited to be here with you. So
I know
down to talk about
it was a segue, but I was thinking now. I keep losing my train of thought because I'm like I have so many things going on that I want to say or talk to you about.
I mean, I think if you want me to address a couple of those objections in a quick fashion, I mean, those are points I'd love to touch on right now.
Yeah, go for it.
How do we know? If people can, this is a cool story for people, but I'd love for them to get off with like advice. Like, oh, I didn't think about that, and the modern era and the digital era is extremely, because I run a business, right, that relies upon people sending me money with, I mean, most of the time there's not even a contract, and it's just like, put your life in my hands. These people are remortgaging their house to pay me money because I'm their last hope, right? These people are taking out credit cards. They're going further into debt to get me on board. I mean, luckily I have, I don't want to do a walking product placement for my company, but well, first off, we're in an era where it's really hard to scam people. I got to be honest. Like, you Google, Reddit, message boards, it's Scam Watch. It really is harder than you think because everyone's connected. It's like crimes. You could commit crimes in the 40s. You know what I mean? And now everyone's so connected that you pull a quick one over and everyone knows your name. And look for people's open review processes. If they have reviews that are on a website, but they're not on a Facebook page, an open review, well, there's a reason the review process isn't open because anyone can write anything, and that's a good thing. On the other hand, I mean this in the least snooty way possible. If someone's making if they're making 8 figures, 7 figures, and they're asking somebody for 5 or 10 grand with a guarantee money back to build up their business, $5,000 to someone who makes 7 figures is equal to $50 to the average person. They're not doing it because they need to make more money. In fact, when people have 7 and 8 figure businesses, they would just stick to that business to make them money. So if they actually have a business that's booming, it'd be very weird for them to make less money to do wrong to other people. You see what I'm getting at? But beyond that, most of these people are doing it for legacy. That's why I'm in full admission, and I don't know if it sounds bad or not. I do a lot of what I do for admiration. I want the husband and wife to remember that there was someone who came into their life and gave them financial freedom. The crying phone call, the turning their initial doubt into holy crap. These are the things that most of these people are working for. And most people, like, if you can build one successful big business, you can build a lot of them. It's not, you've cracked the formula. You know every single bit about it. My advice to anyone, honestly, is, and I don't even have openings. I'm not accepting until June of next year. So it's, I advise anyone who's looking to get somewhere, whether it be podcasting, whether it be personal training, whether it be to find someone who did exactly what you want to do and say, please take me under your wing. How much is it going to cost? How can I buy your time? I'll work so hard. And the other reason the money thing is a part of it and not for free is I've done this test before where I gave out webinars for free, just gave people free stuff. And the statistical number of people that did something with it was abysmal. And when I charge people money and make them they're committed. They respect my time a lot more because they're not going to waste their money. But if you go offer them for free, you'll have everyone in the world who's just bored and wants to take your time to talk to you, or and that's one thing they've even done where you do is free and $1. If people pay $1 for something, they're like 80% more likely to actually use it or do something. It's like when you're walking by and they're like, oh, free Frisbees. You're like, okay. And then you throw it in the, the garage or whatever. You throw it to your dog. You never actually use it. That Frisbee's $20. You're either going to buy it because you want to use it or you're not going to take it.
Yeah.
Someone else may want that Frisbee.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's my advice to anyone who's looking into coaching in any way, shape, or form, or even a life coach, right? Or even what you do with, look at the people they talk to, ask for reviews, check out the pages, skim their personal or their social media.
Yeah.
We can spy on people's lives so easily. They're bound to slip up somewhere. You'll see if they're nasty to people. They have this front of, oh, I'm all loving, and you see the way they leave comments to people. And I see that all the time. Posts that are like, love everyone, show respect. And then you look at their recent comments, and they're calling somebody a fat pig or being totally nasty to somebody.
Yeah.
Words are like that hard. Actions are difficult and take consistency and dedication and discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into this human stuff that we were talking about, this whole livelihood that you've been doing.
My weird social experiments.
As you want. Yeah, as much as you want to share, or as little as you want to share.
Oh, do you mean as far as this weird the kind of looking
Because
at
you,
what moves people and what I
yeah,
was
because
talking
you
about? Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
talked about
So
it a little bit
yeah, yeah.
earlier and yesterday about how you've
Okay.
really been looking about like what makes people act, what makes people turned off, what makes people, sort of engage and, commit. And so I would
Yeah,
love to
yeah.
just hear a little bit of
Sure.
insight.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah. No, it might be interesting to some people, it might not be to others, but I think the power to influence people for good is amazing.
Yeah.
Like coaching, it's influencing people. I don't mean like influencer, like here with my, whatever, I'm product endorsement on. I mean literally influencing people to be better and influencing people to believe in themselves. And what
Mm-hmm.
I talked to you about yesterday was that I've been able to influence people to do a lot of things. To win a bodybuilding competition with cerebral palsy, I've been able to influence people to give up drug addictions that they failed with 7 addictions counselors. I've been able to
Mm-hmm.
get people to, instead of saying, "Oh, it sucks that I have to work out," to say, "You know what? I'm worth working out. I am worth self-love." And that's way more powerful. Shaming people very rarely works in adult life. You have to
Right.
get them to lean towards something better. You can make the problem worse a lot when you shame people, but you have to remember pain and pleasure. We're avoiding pain, we're seeking pleasure. You have to give them more pleasure in their life, teaching them how to work out in a way that, gives them better energy, sex life, sleep, libido. Funny, I mentioned sex life twice, libido and it. But everything in their life to make it better for them, or else they're not going to do it. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
most people don't operate off discipline. I tend to, most don't. One thing I haven't been able to get people to do is see the common ground in each other and love each other. It fails miserably every single time. And I started to look at that for a while where I said, okay, what is causing this? What is causing people to, oh, you're a snowflake. Oh, you're a stupid conservative. You're a, and they get, I mean, nastiness to like, I'm not even going to repeat it. I mean,
Yep.
nasty, racist, ugly,
Mm-hmm.
ugly. And the people who are pretending to stand against it are like the biggest contributors to it. And it's this big web of refusal of looking at information, refusal to, and they don't want to change things, because if you want to change a situation, you infiltrate, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make a point of contact to what you don't like, and you work on the person's mind. You don't change things by throwing rocks over a fence at other people screaming obscenities. That's how you create more, disconnect and more hatred. And I've never been able to, I haven't been able to put the energy in to get people. Okay, I'll just say it. I'm a very politically neutral person, right? I'm looking for the greater good. At least I think. Confirmation bias is a thing, but I got this group on either side of me that are hell bent on destroying the other and believing
Mm-hmm.
that that is somehow going to bring something to a better position.
Mm-hmm.
And refusal of them, and here's the part that kills me is I think they're both being morons for the most part. I mean, anyone who's
Mm-hmm.
posting almost anything political on social media, I'm like, yeah, I can't allow myself to engage. But the reason I believe that it's been so hard to get people to love, and would you not agree, for the record, that like it's very rare to see two people on opposite sides of something having peaceful discourse?
it's
And
it's it's interesting because I feel like we're in a place now in this world where if you don't, not you, but people.
personal, no.
No. So if, let me just make sure I get this right because there will be people listening. So if someone doesn't have the same beliefs and the same values that you have, there's this weird thing that people just don't feel like they can be in the same room with you, can
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
kind to you. It's like if you don't have the same, if you and I had different political values,
Sure, we do somewhere.
I know. So I'm just thinking like even politics is a whole thing, but even anything, if you don't believe the same way I believe or
Even
act the
dieting within
way
fitness, dieting. Okay,
exactly
on one of my posts 2 nights ago,
right,
I like,
yeah,
it's no, but that's in what's happening is people are taking their egos and putting them on the same shelf as their opinion. So if we have an
mm-hmm.
opinion, you picture a little shelf here and my ego, and we knock. So we're going to change your opinion. Nope, turns out that's not right. There goes your ego.
Yep.
You're willing to fight tooth and nail to
Mm-hmm.
fight. And another case was or 2 days ago, I posted. I don't know if you saw some of the comments. Posted about 5 top fitness myths, and one was that dairy's unhealthy. And even people here, I guarantee you, the
I saw
majority of
that.
people think it is. They were like, and somebody came in and said, "Oh, dairy's," and they said, "Oh, it's going to kill you." And I said, actually, without a question, double-blind random clinicals found that you're actually going to live longer by eating dairy than not. And they said, "Oh, well, it's inflammation And I said, actually, here's a data set that is unbiased from a group that is usually anti-dairy, but they've proven it lowers inflammation and increases endothelial function. And now they're getting pissed. And all I've done is I talk very gently, like, oh no, here you go. I hope you have fun having your cancer. And actually, here's a study showing that, dairy and even large amounts you're cherry picked. No, I'm not. I'm actually, this is metadata. This is a lot of data sets. And then they respond with, in this particular case, it was like veganmommy.org and a blog, and this woman who thinks, and I'm like, how in the hell could you imagine that this is good data? And then, what's weird to me is that I looked to go to the comment thread and I was blocked. And I don't care. I mean, that does me a favor, but when you're I want to use the F word right now, but I'm not going to. When you're so effing, your ego is so big that not even, like, here's the way that I look at it. I think we all know how I was going to end that statement. This is the way that I look at it. I don't identify with a state. I was born in New York. I don't identify as a New Yorker. I identify as a human. I have been actually called a chameleon in a bad way because I have Stetsons and cowboy hats. I love I have super metro outfits, like sparkly belts and I sometimes dress like a gym, tank top and shorts and wear athletic gear all the time. I've taken food from the African American and Hispanic cultures that I grew up around when I lived in Harlem, right? I have taken cultures. I have taken or items from culture, clothing, food, and I love it, and I get along with them all. I've got, black, white, Hispanic, female, male, liberal, conservative. I mean, I've got friends who are in Homeland Security and the Department of Defense and work in the Secret Service, and I've got friends who, are complete hippies who live a crunchy granola life out in the woods. And the thing is, I find it very appealing to borrow things that you like from tons of people and to be very careful what you identify as. And we're all about identity culture right now, right? That's what defines us is identity. I'm proud to not really have one. It sounds weird, but I'm proud to just be open to new things, and I want to learn. And guess what? It's part of the business success I've had as well. I'm not set in my ways. Every time you prove me wrong, I say, thank you so much. I thought that was true for so long, and now I'm not as ignorant as I was before we spoke.
Yeah.
But I think that mindset is really, really, really damaging. And I think most people are under it. And again, how freeing is it to be comfortable to say, oh yeah, you're right. I guess I was wrong about that. My bad. Thanks for to me that, oh my God, the stress is gone. I don't go into a debate. I mean, it's like a televised or a radio, I'm in there to demolish the person. I mean, that's the sport, right? I mean, it's like we're playing football to score touchdowns, but somebody wants to talk to me about something that they feel passionately about. I'm totally open as long as it's, good discourse and good, decent behavior and good talking. But it's so rare and it's screwing ourselves over so bad. And I don't understand it. This is one I might get flack for. I'm sorry. You can edit it out. I don't understand Italian pride, Hispanic pride, white pride, black. You were born that way. Proud to be a good person. Be proud to be decent. Be proud that you have your own business. Be proud that you work a job that you love. Be proud that you've raised some good kids. Be proud that you're a good friend, a good mom, a good neighbor, a good brother. Your ethnicity to be proud of to me is such a strange, proud to have 10 fingers. That's the same as me being proud of being Irish. To me, at least, it's a very strange, and I think we embed it in people from the time they're born. Team sports. Well, the team is the human race. And if we don't start working together or do something or have love for each other, the team is going to lose as a whole. And we've already lost on certain avenues. So, again, feel free to agree, feel free to disagree. But I think this idea of your religion and your skin color and your sexuality and your gender and your job and defines you more. Nothing defines me more than my desire to learn and love other people. And by the way, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I get grumpy. I honk the horn at people when I'm having a bad day. Won't get out of, I'm not sitting here trying to pretend I've transcended human boundaries of what people can do. But there's a good amount of people that come to me and pay a high dollar to learn just how to think this way. And that's one of my first steps for anyone is know that you can practice your mindset, practice your happiness, and be careful where you put your ego alongside of your identity and your identity politics, as well as your views. because you're done. And anybody can get you at that point. You are so vulnerable for anyone to get under your skin and make you mad. Furthermore, if the opinions and thoughts of other people who you don't know have power over you, you're kind of damned as well.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Thank you. Freestyle.
So yeah, I love it. And I don't normally post a lot of things on social media about that thing, but I think it was just the beginning of this week. I follow this really amazing photographer, and he has a picture that he put up there. He copyrighted. He did whatever he felt like he needed to do, and people have been copying it and not giving him credit. And he simply in the beginning was asking, hey, could you just simply give me credit for, my work?
I might know who it is.
You probably do, but you can look. But anyway, he's like, I'm just simply asking for credit for my work.
I know who it is.
And then over time, people were like, F you, like I can do whatever I want with whatever I want, whenever I want, kind of thing. And somebody took this really important picture that he had done with him and his dog and made it into this really, in his world, in his mind, a very inappropriate meme. And he called him out, and he said, he didn't cuss. He just said, WTF is this shit? Well, I guess he did cuss. Right. And then the people that made this meme have this huge following on social media. And I looked on their page before I even read the rest of it. I looked on their page, and their whole page is really just making fun of other people.
Wonderful.
For believing.
Cool. Yeah. What a legacy to have.
Right. And they have 22,000 people that are following this particular social media group that all they do is just want to make fun of people because they don't believe the same way that they believe. And so then I was kind of reading the comments, and I physically got sick to my stomach because they took him pretty much saying, please just honor and respect my work.
Yeah. Pretty basic. Respectfully, could have been a lot meaner with his. He could have sent a cease and desist attached to an attorney letter.
Yep. And so, and I think he's probably doing that now, but like, I just was reading some of these comments, and I was looking at some of the people that made these comments, just going to their page to see what their page was all about. And then I was saying here, I was like, I spent an hour doing this shit and it's gotten me nowhere. But some of the people, like, I was like, what's this? Like I can't even repeat the comment because it was so bad. And it had nothing to do with the picture. It had everything to do with, you don't believe what I believe. So I'm going to call you all these awful names and tell you that I wish all these awful things on your family. And I was like, who is this dude, this person? I didn't even see. So I clicked on it. And I'm scrolling through. I was like, motherfucker. He lives in the same state that I live. I'm so ashamed. I was like so ashamed. And then I was like, I can't read it anymore. I can't.
It's hard, right? It's hard not to get sucked into like that. So remember how we talk about rules? I have to have a black and white rule because I love good debate. And I always going in thinking people are going to have a nice debate. And I represent data sets. And then all of a sudden I'm being called some horrible name. And I'm like, and I like never learn. Like I try to see the good. I'm like, this is gonna be different. Like it's gonna be different this time, and it's never. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's just so hard to see, and it's really. I think it's the product of us just not having many threats to our life. I got to be honest. Like if there were typhoons rolling through every day, or some other country that was trying to invade us, and we had boots on the ground and bullets flying, and we wouldn't have this free time to just pick at each other, but. Yeah. It's a luxury that we have such time to fight with each other because like it really is. It truly is. But it's funny because it ties back in. Remember how I was okay, so to add on that, do you remember when I was talking about how like people need an enemy was like kind of where or maybe I didn't. Maybe I know we had. Well, what I had found within gathering these, it just said 10% battery, so I probably have like 10 minutes. But I can only have headphones in or it plugged in. Like I don't know why iPhone did this to us, but anyways, I found that people within finding out what people like, what they don't like, what and what I came to find was people say people love negative shit. Not true, actually. People like positivity. They do. I think most people are good people. They make mistakes. They have bad days. They see things they wish they didn't. We've all had outbursts. I punched my refrigerator like 4 months ago when I that one wheel, that like $2,500 thing that I ride around the board. I broke it and I did something stupid, you know what I mean? And so we all do dumb stuff, no matter how controlled you are. I just put a big magnet right over where that big indent in the fridge. It says stainless steel. It's not true because it looked like the Juggernaut from the X-Men punched that thing. I mean, it caved completely. But going on, I came to find that people like positivity. They do. They like encouragement. They like decency. They like love. They're just so lost on the way to find it, I think. Yeah. And I found that people, like I made a post one day that said, we might have talked about this, might not, but I made one post that had a picture of it, like a kid in, I think, Mozambique, ribs poking out, completely starving, tears down the face. I mean, it was hard to look at. It was a pattern interrupt. Anyone who knows marketing, you got to get their attention. So this picture of, and I said, it was on Monday. I said, learn to love your Monday or learn to hate your life. You know, and I had some words that are too long, but they were kind, and it said, just be careful what you bitch about, you know, because somewhere, somebody, and it doesn't mean you can't have problems in your life, but take ownership for gratitude. Practice, just like we practice happiness, like we practice the guitar. If you're not used to it, you're going to suck and be miserable for 6 months until you learn how to get good at gratitude and happiness. Like you'd suck at the guitar. It's the same thing. But no response, almost none. And then I put up a post that said, rock bottom teaches you things that mountaintops don't. Which is a very similar idea. And it's be happy for where you're at, and you're going to learn lessons, and it's okay where you are. That one was like 1,000, like, you know, so many shares. I mean, it would same time, same moment. One had a pattern interrupt, meaning it would be seen by more of these starving children. One didn't. Now, the reason, and I found through all the data I've collected, which is years and years in data, over thousands of posts and comments, is people are terrified to take responsibility. They're terrified of taking responsibility. And I find a lot of coaches, I think, are really poor. I've worked with people who had 5 coaches, and all their coach did was, take a mental health day. You should eat the chocolate today. You should stay home from the gym because you're worth it. You're beautiful no matter what. And don't get me wrong, I do agree with a lot of the sentimentality behind that. But a lot of professional coaches work as people who get paid money to tell people to slack off. And it makes them more comfortable because, no, my coach is telling me this, I'm paying, and they're paying to pull that responsibility away. Now, when I coach people, we're going to list out 3 things: your financial goals, your physical goals, your mental goals, and we're going to get there. And if we don't get there, then I haven't done my job, right? You know, very quantitative. I want to be held to the standard, and I want you to be too. If we're going to make some progress and improve your life. And what I found was that, you know, all the data points towards the fact that people are just terrified to take ownership. They always want to blame it on, the other political party. That's why their life isn't where they want it to be, right? I mean, you know, people, it's so bad. People are so fat because the food in the store is all colorful and attracts us with marketing. What the hell ever happened to taking ownership of the fork? You know what I mean? I don't care what the packaging is like. You want to blame, you know, and in that post, one post is giving you responsibility for gratitude. Hey, it's Monday. You're probably tired. Dude, my Mondays are worse than, I'm not going to lie. You know, the weekend ran long and I got to do more work. I don't like Monday. I like Monday less than I like any other day of the week but I purposely eat the frog and put as much into Monday as possible so the rest of my week is easier. Anywho, everyone hated the idea of saying, take ownership of gratitude. Look at these poor, starving, dying children. It doesn't mean your life's perfect, but smile upon the fact that as bad as it sounds, smile that you're not them. Seriously, but when you tell people, it's fine. If you're on rock bottom and your life is failing, you're going to learn a lot here, so you're in the right spot. Oh dear, I love that. And I found that it's very important to find out how we get somebody comfortable, like the mountaintop and the being in the gutter, but that we apply the logic of the first post, which is, I'm a big fan of not blaming anyone for anything, even where I've been completely wronged. I don't spend time saying, this is their fault. Well, yes, it was, but we have to change. You got a moving train coming at you with bad stuff. Do you want to yell it's your fault and then get knocked to pieces by this train? Or do you want to get out of the way?
Right.
And I think it's very powerful. I think that's really powerful for a lot of people to meditate on, because I also talk with entrepreneurs all the time, and I randomly just had conversations on this weird with 20 entrepreneurs, and I just kind of didn't let them know it was one question, but I went through a battery of questions. Every single one of them who was highly successful, including people who work in mindset and are incredibly happy people, they all have this trait that they said, I don't care what happened and how it happened, I take ownership. And it was in that point in my mind, like, I was already thinking it. I didn't lead them to it. When I talked to everybody, they were genuinely happy people who were doing well, and they all had this air about them that I'm not blaming anybody. You know, I got to get it. I'm the only one who can do this, and I can get help from people, but I'm not going to spend my day blaming other people. And I think of all this stuff we've talked about, and I wish I didn't have a 6-minute ticker going right now, is that it's very important to take ownership for everything you can in your life. And it doesn't mean that they didn't do it to you. I was wronged by the sickness, but I could lay in bed and everyone will give me an excuse. I could be on disability because of the medical coding on which my condition is, without a question. But it doesn't get me any further to say this was unfair and this was wrong. It was unfair and it is wrong. But the only way to get past it is to take ownership, inspire myself, build me up, build up other people, and find and live a life of purpose.
Yeah. Oh, that's a brilliant closing.
There we go. That's it.
1 hour. No, I'm serious. Like, think about that. Like, that's some really wise words to. Oh, somebody's looking at me. It's really wise words to. Yeah, I just looked at me. But really wise words to sort of leave this podcast episode.
God, I feel like we got to talk again soon. I feel like we just touched on all these points.
We do.
Like, man.
We do. If Facebook Live wasn't broken, we could pick it up there, but it's broken. So
is it?
Yeah, you can't bring someone on with you and have a conversation on Facebook right now.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah, it's totally lame. But we'll do it again because I love having conversations with you. Like, I was giddy just thinking about how we'd be able to connect and just have a conversation. And yeah, this was awesome.
So much has happened since the last time we spoke. Oh, has it been over an hour?
I know.
Oh, it's an hour. A time warp. I just lose it with you in a good way.
It's great. I love it. So let's do it again. I won't keep you. I know you've got lots to do. I've got to finish up my task here. And yeah, we'll connect soon. And thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. You are a wonderful person. I appreciate the time given me to speak and the questions that you've asked and the considerations. And I feel like we kind of just put a lot of presents under the tree, and maybe on another call we can unbox them and really get into them, which I don't think sounds like a bad time for either of us. So
no, I think it sounds fantastic.
Thank you so much. Keep that fire alive, my friend.
Yes, you too. Have a great holiday, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye.